So how in the fuck are you gonna tell me that a truck driver, a bunch of random motherfuckers on the internet, and maybe a few doctors understand science better than fucking the media and the government and, you know, scientists themselves are bickering in their fucking publications all the time? And I think today we're gonna just get some basics down on how to sort through the immense amount of fucking complete bullshit and shit. And look at that, we're starting off with some motherfucking technical difficulties. Fucking thing just came up and said it was disconnecting and reconnecting. So let me hit reload and shit. Yeah, this has been kind of just a shitty week all around. Let's see. Alright, here we go. It looks like it's working, finally. So, as you know, I usually, when I do a live stream, I have this, you know, little spiel I give for the people that watch later, instead of just me saying hi every 10 minutes to everybody and, you know, stuff like that. But let me get some of that out of the way, because we do have some people here. Let's say hi to the people that have joined us. But during my talk, I'm not going to be staring at the chat, so save your questions. Talk amongst yourselves, obviously, but as far as the stuff that you want me to address, save it for later, and I'll do the best I can. The more the chat's moving, the less I can do that. But for now, let's just say hi to everybody that is here. Alrighty, so we got Cat in Canada, Spy of 21, Roman Graham, Rosalba, I Am Small Fry, Deb Z, Paul Smart, Deborah Mazines, Laura Royals. You know, everybody's here, the usuals. So it's good. I didn't think anybody'd show up, being a holiday here in the States, but then again, I realize a lot of you aren't from the States. But hello and welcome. It's kind of raining outside this holiday weekend right now for me, so made sense to go live today. But anyways, I wanted to talk about science in our fundamental problems that we've had, as we constantly are bombarded with headline after headline. Meat may cause cancer, you know, eating this vegetable does this to you, or, you know, eggs cause heart disease. You know, all of these headlines that are based on some epidemiology study that is fucking worthless. So I wanted to bring to light today and talk about briefly, in my opinion, there's a couple of really good videos out there to really help you if you're struggling to decide whether a study you're reading or whether there are, you know, fucked up things going on, you know, within the scientific community. You know, when you're sorting through studies that contradict each other, and you just kind of don't know what to fucking believe anymore. And, you know, I've always said that as we ultimately, it's our job to do the clinical work ourselves in our little n=1 experiments, where we sit here and we try these things out, see what worked for us and, you know, what doesn't. But sometimes we need some more information before we decide to do that, because there is an inherent risk involved, both short-term and long-term, in doing a self-experiment. You know, if you do it wrong, like if you do keto wrong, for example, you can run into electrolyte problems and have some serious problems, especially if you're athletic and you're doing keto. You really need to kind of keep up on electrolytes. And if you just half-ass into it, and there's a lot of people half-assing their way into fucking keto right now, but if you just half-ass your way into something without making an informed decision, then you can really fuck yourself up. So it pays to be able to sort out the bullshit when it comes to science. And unfortunately, most of the science that we are bombarded with, the studies, this is doubling your risk of that, this is increased risk of that bullshit, it really doesn't help us make a very informed decision. It can nudge us in one direction or another, but it's on very poor data. So I wanted to spotlight a couple videos that I found are nice, good explanations on how to interpret the science while you're doing your research. You know, like I said, don't base your shit off my shit and shit. Get out there, do your homework, do your own research, come up with your own hypothesis to test on yourself, based not only on the things I say, but the things you hear from other people in the community who have done this, from other people who have done the research and who are sharing their knowledge with you. And as you form all of this, you'll find the commonalities you need to make the decision about your health and the things you want to do going forward and shit. So the first thing I wanted to bring to light is Tom Naughton. He did the movie Fathead, which was a very good movie. He was a little naive at the time he filmed it in the terms of keto and low carb, but he set out to contradict the movie Super Size Me. So if you haven't watched Fathead, you can probably find that on Netflix or Amazon or maybe even YouTube at this point. But it was a good watch, and it's entertaining. And he's a comedian, and he's done his homework, and he's done his research on the subject, and I think eventually he ended up farming his own food just so he could be healthier and stuff. But anyway, he was on this low carb cruise, and he gave this excellent. And the links to these two videos I'm going to discuss with you and play a few clips from are in the description. And I do highly recommend, especially if you're struggling with what science to believe and what science is bullshit, that you go and you watch these, because I found them to be very concise. Tom Naughton was very entertaining in his presentation, and if you're a logical thinker or a critical thinker, you will read into the humor and enjoy it. But let's just catch a snippet from Tom Naughton's little speech.
Comes along, raises your risk of diabetes, and the investigators, who are not being careful with their language, make statements like, the study showed a significant increase of new onset diabetes with regular egg consumption. They didn't even say associated with. This sounds like cause and effect. So naturally, people read this and they come away thinking that every time you eat some eggs, it is like putting more bullets in your gun. In an observational study, that is not what raising your risk means. In an observational study, raising your risk simply means that statistically you would be placed in one group instead of another group, and your group, on average, had a more negative outcome. But which group you belong to depends on...
And that's a very important point about observational studies. Which group are you in? Because some groups have overlap. And I think we find when our high-fat diets are demonized, it's usually with the fact that we're part of the high-fat, high-carb group, which has the most risk of problems.
On how the investigators decided to slice and dice and analyze the data. Let's go back to our observational study. That's you, surrounded in yellow. If the
that's most of us ketos, the high-fat, low-sugar. As you can see, there's no little, high-risk area in the high-fat, low-sugar. But because we have that high fat in our category, we are often categorized. But let me let him do it.
Decide to slice and dice and analyze this data according to fat intake. You belong to a high-fat diet group, and according to my data, that raises your risk of heart disease.
And I can't tell you how many times vegans have used this particular, scientific argument against keto, against carnivore, by just lumping us in the group with the high-fat, high-sugar, and ignoring the low-fat, high-sugar crowd, which is also at higher risk.
But if they decided to analyze the data by sugar intake, you're in the low sugar group, and according to my data, that lowers your risk of heart disease. Your diet cannot be causing heart disease and preventing heart disease at the same time. And frankly, since this is an observational study, we don't know. These are simply statistical categories. They don't tell us anything about cause and effect. One more example.
And that's a true story that I wish the fucking media and government would figure out, because they base so many guidelines and so many decisions and so many news stories. We're all gonna fucking die if you eat bacon. You hear it all the fucking time, based on observational studies, which are not conclusive, which do not give you the ability to say that this causes that. It says, hey, when this happens, that seems to happen more. So there's a whole bunch of other variables that could be involved in that happening, but because we only see the one variable, we make that association, which is a complete fucking failure of science and critical thinking. And then you enter with the confirmation bias and the not wanting to be wrong, and you know, if the results don't match your expectations, you don't publish it, that kind of bullshit that's been going on. It's, you know, that's when it becomes a big fucking minefield out there, when you're trying to fucking come up with these decisions to make the right choices, and you're bombarded with bullshit. Every once in a while you see, oh, there's a good study, but you have to see so much fucking stupid shit before you can figure it out. And it, you know, one of the things I've learned in this journey as I've researched is to be able to discern the good studies from the bad studies. And you don't need to be a fucking PhD to do this. You don't need to be super smart or super educated. It just requires some common sense, some ability to, you know, to step outside of that bubble and see if it makes sense, you know, logically. And a lot of the shit that we're bombarded with just it doesn't make sense logically.
Example of raising your risk before we move on. Girls who quit high school are much more likely to end up as pregnant teenagers than girls who don't. So statistically, quitting school raises your risk of becoming pregnant. Does anybody think quitting school makes you pregnant? Anybody had a pregnant teenager come home and said, oh my God, she must have quit school? No. I mean, if that's how it works, a whole lot of us need to go back to high school and retake biology.
So that's pretty much in a nutshell our problem today. And the media is hugely, you know, guilty, hugely. They're really fucking guilty of that. And our government right behind them with the guidelines based on, you know, observational studies, unproven hypotheses. The reason we're fucked health-wise is we based our entire nutritional guidelines, our food economy, and our lifestyles on an epidemiology study that was heavily flawed. And when you make these decisions, you know, on an observational study that results in the death of millions over the years, prematurely, from preventable diseases that got worse instead of better when we changed our guidelines and we came up with this commercialized Western diet that is good for people's big houses and baller lifestyles, but in the end punishes anyone that's eating that way with heavy medical costs, low quality of life, and an early grave at the end. And nobody's accountable for this. Nobody is going to stand up and say, look, we were wrong about low fat. No, they're going to sit here and they're going to try and dodge and weave and try and crowbar in. Now we're crowbarring in plant-based, and you know, instead of doubling down on the low-fat shit, we're crowbarring all of these ways around instead of just saying, hey, we were fucking wrong. Let's change. Instead of saying, yeah, we fucked up. You know, instead of waiting 5-10 generations down the road when they can look back at us and say, wow, we were really stupid back then. What the fuck were they thinking? But we won't do that now in our current time when we could reverse this epidemic that we're in of bad health, obesity, diabetes, cancer, heart disease. All of these things are way worse than they should have been. And we need to take a step back. And one of the things that we can do here on the ground, instead of listening to Dr. Oz or my least favorite, The Doctors, or whatever the hell that show is, I've caught bits and pieces of that horse shit, and sit here and, you know, instead of doing that and then basing our decisions off of that, let's get out there, let's dig up the good science, let's throw out the bad science. And this video and the next video I'm gonna spotlight are both good instructional ways to think about the studies that you're reading. And both of them outline, this one is a little bit more common sense, a little more comedy oriented. The next video I'm going to go over is a little more dry and scientific, a little more, you know, I don't know, a little more boring, but a little more informative as far as methods of figuring things out. So that was Tom Naughton. His channel is Fathead Movie, and the link to that video is in the description. So when you're bored, when you're sitting on the shitter, when you're, you know, doing something that doesn't involve anything, you know, I would recommend watching it, not listening to it, because there's a lot of graphical humor. But definitely a good fucking video to check out. Now the video that sent me down the rabbit hole to find that video was this video by Dr. Darren Schmidt. I'm also a fan of him. You should subscribe to him. He's very informative. Works very hard on his presentations and his graphics and his statistics. And but a lot of people will be put off by the title, The Final Takedown of Anti-Fat USDA Vegan Anti-Meat Food Pyramid Research. And that's going to piss vegans off, of course, but any open-minded, critical thinking vegan might be able to still get a lot out of this video. And maybe even find some science that doesn't suck for the vegan side of the argument. But most of the science that I've been presented with from the vegan side of the argument has been epidemiology or rat studies, and also had, you know, tons of confounding variables involved. Not a whole lot of clinical data coming from that camp in terms of science. But let's just play a quick clip of this.
So now here's Dr. John Ioannidis. He's a meta-researcher. He researches the research process. And this is what he says about nutritional epidemiology. He says, nutritional epidemiology is a scandal. It should just go to the waste bin. So, but here we have 7 levels of evidence. Level 7 is expert opinion.
Consequently, we are level 8. You know, I'm not an expert. You know, level 8 is asshole opinion. And that's where I am. And we're all pretty much in that level. None of us are experts. That's why we're here. So I just wanted to add that there's an extra level there. And it shouldn't be ruled out, because we have, you know, through doing our little self-experiments and sharing our knowledge with each other, we're starting to figure a few things out without the expert opinion, without the, you know, these other levels of evidence.
There's 6 and 5. 6 is a single descriptive or qualitative study. That's an epidemiological study. And another term for that is empirical study. Another term is observational. And then here we have level 5, a systematic review of the epidemiological studies. And 90% of this is garbage. And then level 4 is a case controller cohort study. Cohort just means group. So another observational study. This is a scandal, and it all belongs in the waste bin. According to the greatest meta-researcher, he is the king, Dr. John Ioannidis. Okay, and then we have
and of course, you know, when you're watching stuff like this where they're referencing, this is another way to deepen your knowledge, is to follow the trail. You know, you're going to find people like myself, you know, and many others in the YouTube community who parrot other experts. You know, we parrot level 7. And you follow it until you get to the actual studies and the actual, you know, literature or whatever it is that they're giving you their opinion on. And then you can get there, look at it for yourself, and, you know, use these methods of deciphering whether it's good science or bad science. And one of the things that didn't get really touched on is the funding. Who paid for the science? Would it have been in their best interest to publish the results of that study if it came out poorly? Is there a way that they could have manipulated it to show a positive result for their business? You know, pharmaceutical industries fund these things. You know, Monsanto funds these things. Nestle, Coca-Cola. You got to ask yourself, when you see a study funded by one of these organizations or one of these companies, are they going to tell me if they fuck up, if it doesn't prove that their shit's healthy? Are they going to publish that? Hell the fuck no, because they're paying the scientists, and the scientist isn't going to fucking shit where he eats. And if the scientist doesn't get the result that profits that company, you don't fucking see it. It gets buried. And that's the corruption that exists in the science. You know, that is insane. But it's there, and we can't deny that it's there. So.
Control trial level 3 with no randomization. What is randomization? It means they get 2 groups of people, and they're not randomized. So this group might be all men over 6 feet tall with red hair. Level 1 and so next.
So he goes through a whole lot of. You know, I don't want to sit through that too much, but it is a useful video for learning more directly how to decipher a bad study, a good study, relative risk ratios, you know, and that's one of the other things that we see these headlines, doubles your risk, and, you know, based on like a 0.2%, or my favorite one was the bacon thing. We get the headline that bacon increases your risk of cancer, and if you dig down into the science, it increased it by 15%. And then if you dug deeper, you realize that was just 15% from the lower baseline. So your actual chance of getting cancer from bacon was like minimal to almost non-existent, as in it didn't move the needle one way or another. But because of the way they word it, because they use relative risk instead of absolute risk, they're able to make these grandiose fucking headlines that say, hey, it doubles your risk. You know, when the whole doubling might be from 2 to 4%. That's doubled risk. Sounds pretty fucking bad when you say it that way. Whereas if you say, well, if you do this, it'll increase your risk from 2% to 4%. No, that sounds like shit. We're not going to scare people with that headline. We got to go, it doubles your fucking risk that you're going to fucking die if you eat a slice of fucking bacon. You know, and that is the problem with science today. It's bastardized and abused, and we're just taking it in the ass for it, and that is the horse shit that we have to deal with. So that was just the short topic I wanted to go over today. Highly recommend those 2 videos. You should absolutely fucking watch those all the way through, and also give them a like and a subscribe, and so on and so forth. And so that we can keep this going, so that we're all working together to push a healthier life. Now, there's one more thing I want to talk about before we get to the comments in the chat. You know, this past week has been a rough week on my channel because I made a choice to do something that upset a lot of people. And that is to start drinking in moderation again. And the problem I'm having, I guess, is I feel like that some people are using it as a way to invalidate everything I've said over the past 3 years, to invalidate the people I've helped that, you know, tell me all the time that I've helped them. They've dropped 30 pounds, they've dropped 40 pounds, they're off their meds, you know, all of this stuff, good feedback I got. Somehow, me having 1 or 2 drinks at the bar with some friends, makes me a hypocrite for all of that. And I'm here to tell you that, you know, the sobriety thing was only since December. I'm not making excuses. It is an addiction that I am feeding by doing the moderation exercise. That doesn't mean I'm still addicted to sugar, because I'm not. I'm not addicted to carbs. I'm not. I have no desire to do any of those. I do have a desire to have a drink every once in a while, so I must be still addicted to it. However, it's come up in conversation. Like, I'll have people like ask me something, and I'll offer them a piece of advice, and then they'll cite the fact that I still have a drink or two, you know, particularly in the sugar addiction versus the carb and alcohol, or the alcohol addiction. And so I'm hoping that my decision, and this is what I'm struggling with, that my decision to do this for myself, that I'm not encouraging anyone else to do. I do not say it's healthy. I'm doing it for a very specific reason, and it's not optimal health. But if somebody's going to use my excuse or my reasoning or any of that as a reason to not do all these other healthy things that we know work, that are good for you, that I have not changed my opinion on and will not change my opinion on, that, you know, that's kind of a lame thing to use one of my imperfections, of which I have a shit ton of them. So if you're judging, you know, whether or not to do this based on what the fuck I'm doing, then you're in for, you know, you're going to be let down. I'm not this, you know, massive fucking awesome perfect human being. I am as far from perfect as you can fucking get. But I just wanted to take a moment to say that, please, I should never be the endpoint for any decisions. I should never be the only stop you make on this journey to better health, lifestyle, and so on. A lot of the things I do, I try for irrational reasons. I do things for pleasure sometimes instead of health. You know, these are all human decisions that I do. And I know there's a trade-off to that 2 or 3 drink limit. I know I risk falling off the fucking cliff and binge drinking again. So far, that hasn't happened, and as long as that doesn't happen, I will try and practice moderation. And if it fails, I'll go back to sobriety. But that's my decision to make, and it's my life. And I'm not willing to you know, let anyone else tell me what to do with that, and neither should you. You shouldn't let some guru on fucking YouTube tell you how to live. Some people get locked in on different people, and they're like, you know, if no one else that has a contrary opinion is right, it's only that one person, and that's not how I look at things when I'm doing my research. I take everything as a whole. There's things I agree with, things I don't agree with. I disagree with Sean Baker on some things, for example, but I agree with him that a carnivore diet is a healthy diet overall. You know, Jimmy Moore, there's controversy there because I did a video a while back there. I believe in everything Jimmy Moore preaches. And at the same time, it looks like he slid off the wagon, and instead of addressing it, he glazed over it. He didn't really come out and say what's going on. And, you know, it would not have been honest of me to drink and not share with you guys that I'm doing that. And that's why I did that. At the same time, none of that should discourage you. There's people that probably look at any flawed person and, you know, like a diabetic that watches the Sean Baker explanation of blood sugar is going to take a shit on the whole carnivore diet because that. Or that's watching me that, you know, is trying to get healthier and quit sugar and maybe has alcohol issues as well. They're going to watch me and say, well, he's a drinking. I can't. All of his shit is bullshit, you know. Or that watches Jimmy Moore, who had the weight regain and is preaching keto still, and then so everyone might look at that and be like, well, I can't do keto. He's not doing it right. You know, you can't do that. That doesn't change the information. You still got to go out and find this information for yourself. So I just wanted to touch on that because it's been a little bit of an emotional roller coaster talking about this with you guys over the past couple videos and probably today in the chat. But you know, there was a small period of time where I was evaluating even being a YouTuber because of it, which, you know, there's some people, those of you who are out there who are very understanding and connect with me a lot better, encourage me to keep going. But when you get a lot of pushback, I will say there is an effect, and I'm only human, and I have human responses to this shit. So I just want to say it's been a rough week. I was even debating going live today, but I'm doing it, and I'm pressing on, and I'm not going to let, you know, it slow me down, so to speak. And I'll also be completely honest with you about these things. I'm not advocating alcohol consumption. I'm not advocating anybody to have drinks and all of that shit. I'm just saying it's what I want to do to test my ability to not be a slave to addiction, to be able to be moderate, you know. And moderation to me has always been the issue. It's not that I had to drink every day or, you know, anything like that. It was when I drank, I binge drank. I didn't stop, you know, wake up in a field and shit. So that was that. That's the end of that particular topic, unless you guys bring it up in the question. So let's get to, first we're going to go to the super chats and see where we're at there. So Alex Walker, $5. Sup, dude, and thanks. Thank you for contributing. Wishful Thinking, also contributing on Super Chat. Keto since the first. Thanks for the helpful info. And no problem. I'm trying to continue to do that, to provide you with a place to go. Like today, I gave you 2 videos that you should go check out. But don't stop there, because each one of those videos has references. You know, go as far into the rabbit hole as you got time to go when you're making these decisions about your life. Never base it on just one motherfucker, ever. No matter who that motherfucker is. You know, whether or not they take their shirt off in a video should be, you know, not a factor you decide things on, you know. And I said that as Sandra R. wrote Leonardo Cardassian about DeLauer. I must have missed some conversation. All right. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Leonardo Casdiran, I'm going to butcher names again, wrote, Thomas DeLauer calls 4,674 names before he starts. And I assume that's referencing the not wanting to litter the beginning of the video with a bunch of hi, how you doings and call outs. And that's, I only do this way because that annoys the shit out of me when I watch a live stream. And shit you not, they're trying to get their point across. They're hitting the points. They're nailing it. They're talking, and then, oh, what's up, Joe in San Francisco, you know, in the middle of a sentence sometimes, and that always just you know, triggers me or something. So that's why I do it this way, where I have my little comment. So Rosalba, holiday, us poor folk had to work. Well, it is Memorial Day weekend, and true, there are a lot of people who work through all the holidays, and that's why I preach minimalism and trying to get out of the corporate world as a way to avoid that. But I do understand some people have been locked in to their lifestyles and into the grind of survival, and that includes having to work all the time. Well, that's the reason I left trucking. Is 70-hour work weeks, no time to myself, no time to do the things I wanted to do. Plenty of money, but not enough time. So I spent years reducing debt and decluttering and getting rid of shit, and now I have a lot more time. I still have, you know, obligations and, you know, debts, but I make a lot less money, but also need a lot less money. So that's kind of where I'm at as far as whether or not you had to work on the holiday. And technically, I'm working right now. But it was my choice to work. No one told me I had to work today. And that's the way it should be in life. It should be you who dictates when you work. You shouldn't have to be told to be to work every fucking day. You know, and there's more to life than making money and spending money. There's a whole other world out there that is ready to be explored. Then I'm going to work on that going forward. Sorry, needed a quick coffee fix. I'm still scrolling down. I'm not caught up to the chat that you guys are seeing on the screen right now. Cindy Brown at ScottTheTruckDriver. You need to collab with Sarah from Pearls of Wisdom and Food. And I do plan on doing collabs in the future when I'm on the road and can stop off and visit people and do this in person, that kind of stuff, for those other YouTubers who are interested in that. At the same time, I recommend her channel a couple times. I think I did it in a video this week. As far as collabs, you know, I do want to meet other YouTubers or other success stories, not even necessarily big YouTubers or anything. I want to meet some of you who have had this success and are willing to share it with the world. Going forward, when I start hitting the road and start traveling more, unfortunately I don't have the time to do it right now, but eventually I want to get to where I get out there more and meet you guys and talk to you on camera about your story, about the problems you've encountered, about the pitfalls, a lot of the stuff that we already do through the comments and through emails and through research submissions and contributions. You guys are pretty good about telling me your stories, and I like sharing that every now and then, but that's kind of not the same as the actually sitting down and talking and sharing that with everybody. You know what I'm saying? So that is a goal for me. It's an ambitious goal, because it involves me being out there, traveling, car camping, doing all the other things I want to do on this channel, and combining it in a way to where I can get out there and talk to people and actually be in their area and see their environment that they're dealing with when it comes to nutrition, health, the availability of things. Because, you know, as you know, when I went out on the road a short time ago, it was a hostile food environment. It was really hard to eat healthy out there. Holy shit, Dave the Baller MSP dropped by, and thank you for that huge a contribution to the channel. That definitely is helping me. He didn't even give me a message or so. You gotta type some shit so I can read. So thank you, Dave. And Dave is probably the biggest contributor to the channel. He has definitely helped keep this thing going as a more full-time and less part-time endeavor. That being said, this past few weeks I've been doing more part-time and less full-time, but maybe we can change that and shit. That was a good way to give me some more time to do this. Let's see here. Melissa Lewis, we're only human. Maybe should have kept it to yourself. It's really none of our business if you drink. It's true, but you know, it's a confounding variable when you think about it. And you know, there's a lot of people locally who know me and see what I do, and I want to reach them too. And if I'm, you know, talking about this shit on YouTube all the time, and then they're seeing me out drinking, they might come to the conclusion that I'm full of shit on everything. Whereas if I'm open and honest about everything I'm doing, then it's up to them to decide if that's enough for them to say, well, fuck this shit. And some people will, and I'm aware of that. But I do not think omitting a very pertinent piece of data in terms of nutrition and health and lifestyle and addiction when I talk about all of these things is the way to go. I think I need to share and be open about that. Like, you know, I just can't sit here and be like, you know, oh, you shouldn't drink, and then go and fucking have 3 drinks at the bar. That's not, you know, that's not good. You know, we need to be more honest, not only with other people, but with ourselves. And that's part of it too. One of the reasons I talked about that is I wanted to be not just honest with all of you, but honest with myself, to sit here and say it out loud, what I plan on doing, and to understand the thought process I'm putting into it, not delude myself one way or another. And I'm not deluded in any way. I know that this is not the best decision. It could backfire on me, and if it does, I know I can deal with it, and have. And that's you know, the truth. But there's some people that are definitely still taking a shit on this decision, but that's okay. I've listened to all the sides of the argument at this point, of all the sides of judgment and guilt tripping, and there's been a lot of that. There's also been a whole lot of support that, look, you're human, you know, thank you for being honest with us. I've got quite a few of those comments, and had I not shared, that's not honest. You know, omission is not honesty. And I'm trying to do the best I can to let you know everything I do when it affects health, lifestyle, and the, you know, this whole journey that I've been trying to share with you, that I'm learning as I go, and that is helping you guys get out there and figure out how you want to learn, where you want to go, what you want to do with your body, your health, your life. It's your life. You know, some people don't want to live a long, healthy life and could give a shit if they're medicated, as long as they're getting all the pleasure and dopamine that they can fucking handle. And that's not to say they're bad people. That's just how they choose and want to live. It's hard on people around you in that case. But that being said, it is still their life. And it's your life. You know, you watching me right now, this is your life. You know, do you want optimal health? Then you know what to do to get there. If you want a balance or a compromise to where you can do some of the hedonistic pleasures that are not healthy at all, and somehow find a balance, it's a hard balance to find. You're going to usually tip to one side or the other. Either you're going to be optimal health, motherfucker, or you're going to be addicted in a pile of your vomit in the middle of a field, motherfucker. Those, you know, it's really hard to hover in that middle ground, and that's one of the reasons I'm challenging myself, is I want to be in that middle ground. I don't want to tip one side or the other. And lately, for the past 6 months, I've tipped heavily into the optimal health department. You know, I've given up foods that I've liked because I thought that they were not healthy solutions for me. I've experimented with the carnivore diet because I've wanted to try and optimize mental health. And, you know, it's experimenting and finding my place in that spectrum that is an overall good, healthy, and socially acceptable spectrum. Because the more I find, the more into optimal health I get, the harder it is to relate to a lot of people in my life. I try and bring people more towards the healthy side of things, and some of them have done that. But at the same time, I've isolated myself from people who don't give a flying fuck about health, who are otherwise good people. And that's kind of the balancing act that we all need to do. So scrolling down a little more, let's see here. Melissa Lewis, I did my first ever 48-hour fast with the snake juice. I went down a couple pounds, but gained it back, plus a little more. Maybe I'm fixing to whoosh. Snake juice, under my understanding, having watched a few of his videos, is nothing more than electrolytes that, you know, pretty much replenish your electrolytes when you otherwise may run into some of the problems that a low carber / intermittent faster will run into, and that is electrolytes. I myself have had cramps in my feet and legs, especially when I first wake up in the morning. And I know exactly what it is. I didn't take in enough electrolytes, for one. And the other thing is I was dehydrated, as in I drink a lot of this, and I don't drink enough of this. And I've been trying to work on that. And on the days where I drink a couple of these, 2 or 3, 4 sometimes, I don't have cramps the next morning. But on the days where I drink a couple of pots of this, and maybe one of these, I get cramps in the morning. So I do notice that it is a balance of hydration, electrolytes, that can lead to some issues, including weight retention. If you are dehydrated consistently, you're going to hold on to more water weight when you take in that water. Of course, if you drink coffee, you're just going to piss that shit right out. But as far as the snake juice and the snake diet, that's his thing. If you want, try it and it works for you, you should do it. I myself do not feel the need to drink snake juice to get where I'm at. I'm pretty well fine. And just a quick update on the weight thing and what's happened and what's happened even since I reintroduced alcohol. I am at 191.5 this morning and only 35 inches around the belly. And that has been consistent despite doing alternate day 36 fat fasting. That's every other day I fast with pretty much just with heavy cream in my coffee, and maybe if I get hungry, I'll do a single serving 100% chocolate, and that's it for on the fasting days. And then the food days, 36 hours a window in which I can eat when I'm hungry and stuff, which typically ends up being pretty close to carnivore with some nuts mixed in and you know, some full fat Greek yogurt and stuff, but very minimal veg lately. And mood stability is still, it's back to the hills again. Not the flat line I had on carnivore, but also not the huge peaks and valleys that it used to be prior to keto. So that's where I'm at as far as my weight journey is going. And like I said, I'm taking my time. I'm back to ADF, not necessarily to try and lose weight. I just want that to be my default way of eating, to be honest with you. I enjoy not having to worry about food every other day. I enjoy the consistency. Like, you know, I hover in a 3 to 4 pound variance on the food days. Obviously I weigh a little more, like 3 or 4 pounds, and on the fast days I get down and leaner. But you know, and it seems even with ADF and my current level of ketogenic food, I'm still maintaining that weight that I've been stuck at for over a month now. And I see a lot of complaints on the keto diet in terms of, you know, people not losing weight, people gaining weight, you know, so on and so forth. And we're all just really obsessed with the scale lately. And like I've said before, the scale is just part of the, you know, it's almost just a symptom. It's a benefit of being healthier. It shouldn't be the end all be all. If you feel good, if you're off medication, if your blood pressure's good, your blood work's good, you have energy all day, you know, you're healthy, but you might still have a lot of fat on you, or you're not happy with the way you look. And if that's the only thing wrong, you should just keep going, and eventually that shit'll just get better over time. I'm not perfect looking at all, and I don't care to be. It's a matter of, do I feel good? Am I mood stable or close to mood stable? Am I, you know, having allergy problems? No. You know, I'm healthy. And healthy does not necessarily mean see my abs or have big fucking bulging ass muscles from pounding the fuckmaster 4 hours a day. You know, to me, healthy is functional, able to do everything that I like to do, which I can. And I do some pretty aggressive physical things sometimes. Hiking, kayaking, that kind of stuff. And I'm able to do all of that with minimal problems. You know, now I'm not a performance athlete or any of that shit, but as far as my life goes, I'm healthy and happy with enough with the way I look, even though I'm still not at the goal weight that I originally set out for. I've become more comfortable where my body's saying, hey, we're staying in the 190s, motherfucker. You can fast all you want. I'll just put it right back after. You know, and that's really pretty much where I at. If I did a 5-day fast, I could get down to the low 180s, probably within a week, 7-day, maybe, fat fast, and drop it all the way fucking down. And then over the next 2 weeks, it would just tick slowly back up. And it's because of that set point that we're fighting against. And that set point is different. I will tell you that set point has, over the years, gradually started to drop. And that, not only that, but body comp is slowly, and I do mean fucking slowly, shifting to where, yeah, maybe the scale isn't moving. And I've seen this reported anecdotally from multiple commenters, from forums, from all of this, that, yeah, maybe the scale isn't moving, but the tape measure moved. I see definition in areas which were completely fat and round. I see just slight changes going on all over my body. I don't carry body fat in my extremities anymore. It's all in the midsection. And that's kind of just what you got to keep an eye on, and just realize that that scale is just fucking worthless. I went on a pretty long tangent on that comment. Sorry. Alrighty. What else have we got here? Let's see here. I feel like I missed some comments here. Oh, David MSP wrote, "Keep up the good work. I'm in northern Minnesota with a crap internet connection, so I have no idea what the hell you're talking about. Have a great Memorial Day." Well, I hear you. I almost had the fail of this stream because of my internet for some reason, but seems to be still working. But thank you again, Dave. And Dave also chimes in through email quite often. And he's very encouraging to keep me going for this. So, a huge thank you to Dave and MSP, as usual. Paul Smart, I have a story. I'd love to be in one of your videos. But you're in another country. I don't know of my ability to get there. At least your contribution is I think, pounds. I'd love to go to England if that's where you're at. But unfortunately, not currently in the budget. Maybe someday. Maybe when I get close to 100,000 subscribers, I'll be able to afford a trip like that. But for now, I'm talking road trip and stateside, unless you're over here. And Canada. I'll be doing some Canada trips as well. So, like I said, and when I do those, I do plan on announcing where I'm going to be and planning a public place to hang out at, for safety reasons and shit. And, get to know people. And then as I get comfortable, then we can do the interview type stuff if that's a desire. Or just meet and say, hey, I met that motherfucker. He's a piece of shit. Was drinking fucking liquor when I met him. All right. Let's see here. Oh, fuck. I'm going through the comments. I realize this is boring watching me scroll. Cindy Brown, I am small fry fat guy in a little car is the next video I'm watching. Cindy Brown, sorry, Spy wrote, sorry, Cindy, you're on Scott's channel now. You should have ended your comment with "and shit." I'm not sure I get the small fry fat guy in a little car reference there. Is that like a YouTuber or a channel I should be keeping up with? Alrighty. Melissa Lewis, yes, I'm fixing to downsize. I want to become a minimalist. And I highly recommend that. I remember the 14 years I've spent in trucking just being mostly work and being on someone else's clock. And only having time to sleep, shit, maybe eat something, and, go to bed. And every once in a while, you get a day off. Often, you get days off in places, if you're over the road, that you really can't do anything but sit in your truck and watch TV, or maybe go sit in the truck stop if you can't run your truck and that kind of shit. And I can tell you, you just trade all of your time and life away to make a lot of money. And then you go out and you spend it. You buy all this expensive shit. You fill your house full of shit. You pay for the house to fill all of it full of shit. And you run up debt and you do all these other things in your life. And you end up enslaved into that system. And, one of the goals I learned early on is I needed to pull myself away from debt. Which I've been okay with. I think I'm about $1,300 in debt right now, give or take. And I've been slowly, pulling away from all of that so that I'm not enslaved, so I don't have to make a set dollar amount to survive. There is a bottom, and I've been hovering at it as far as survival goes. But it's all about minimizing your outgo and, making the most of a lesser amount of money. And that's mainly what I'm doing as a minimalist, and being able to, go on road trips and having, picking the most fuel efficient car to be able to do that and that kind of stuff, and figuring out cheap things to do instead of pricey things to do, that are just as fulfilling. So that's kind of, and it's a slow journey that you can take over time, and you could generally, you don't have to do it all in like a week, or, and don't quit your job tomorrow or none of that shit, but you can start taking steps now. And that's how it started for me, is I started getting rid of shit. I had the breakup with my ex, which resulted in me living in the truck for a while, which I got rid of a lot of stuff in that period. So everything that I have now is in this room and in the closet, and I'm able to go out and live in a Prius comfortably from time to time, and travel, and all of that would not have happened. I'd be stuck in the truck. I'd be working 70-hour weeks. I would have time off, but it would often be out in the road somewhere, and not necessarily in a place where I can enjoy or would like to be stuck. And coming to a place of more freedom with less money, and being able to fill in the gap with Uber, and doing this channel, and, with people like Dave being very generous, and, it has helped transition me. But there's other things you can do. You don't have to be a YouTuber. There's, other skills that you can do online or work from home that don't bring in a shit ton of money. You're not going to be a baller doing these things, but you can probably live more free, happier life, to where maybe you're not busting your ass 60, 70 hours a week. Maybe you work 30 or 40. Or even 20. Some people I've seen in the van life community that they work 20 hours a week, and they live comfortably in their van on the road. It depends on what level you want to go at, what kind of comfort you need, and the more comfort you trade off, the less money you have to make to live. So, all right. Berry fennel. Snake juice is like drinking IV fluids from the hospital. All right. And that's probably true. I think I looked into it briefly at one point, and it was mostly just electrolytes. You can do the same thing with bone broth, or, any other number of ways to get your electrolytes in. I am Small Fry. If you like music, I put plethora of time-lapse footage across Nevada to 4 of my favorite songs. I Am Small Fry. Is it I Am Small Fry have the YouTube shit? I feel like I missed that whole conversation. So, a scale. Hey dude, which is worse for female hormonal imbalance, fasting or keto? Doing both, loving both, but the only problem is my irregular cycles. Also, can you be my dad? I don't think I could be your dad. As far as female hormonal imbalance, as being that I'm not a female, I can't speak to this from experience, but I do get feedback from time to time. And there are situations where women will not have a regular cycle. I highly recommend finding other women keto who are sharing, or fasters who share their experiences. But if you're having a problem and your cycle is stopped, particularly this happens in long fasts, from what I've read and from what I've seen out there, that you just got to kind of find the sweet spot to where things return to normal. If you haven't had your cycle in a while, I would say, if it were me and I was a female and I saw this negative outcome, I would say, well, I need to feed myself appropriately, or maybe up the carbs by 30 or 40. Maybe my grams were too low to get the job done. If your body thinks it's a famine, You know, if you do a long water fast, for example, your body's not going to be, it's going to be conserving. It's going to try and use everything it has available in your body to survive. And that might lead to a long time between your cycles. So reverse it. Take breaks. Do not constantly fast. One of the documentaries I watched about anorexia, also, that's one of the symptoms. And if your body fat levels are too low, and, you know, it can cause problems in that realm. So you got to kind of look at the big picture of where you're at, and you should not constantly, because fasting is a stress. And it is okay to take breaks, long breaks sometimes, from long fasts. Now, a 23-hour fast or even a 36-hour fast is not going to fuck with you. It's when you start dipping into the 72 hours on top of already being keto, and, you know, and all of these other things that deplete your glycogen, and your, you know, leptin levels have already dropped from weight loss, and, you know, all of these things that tell your brain, hey, we ain't got a lot of food right now, so we need to shut some shit down. You know, that means you need to periodically eat intuitively. And I find that eating keto intuitively, you probably will get plenty of calories, plenty of, you know, nutrients, everything you need. Even if you're just hovering at the 50-gram mark, that should be plenty, in my opinion. But overall, like I said, I'm not a woman. I can't really give you strong advice except to say, find the forums, go out on Facebook. There's a lot of Facebook groups that talk about these things. I think Keto for Beginners is one of the ones I follow, just because I like seeing the new people and their questions, because it gives me ideas of stuff to talk about. And find people who have that. You can even Google that exact question, and you'll find Reddit pages with it. You'll find forum posts. And just kind of get a gauge for things, because for every one person that asks that question, they'll get like 10, 15, 20 comments of, this is what I did and it fixed it. You know, kind of like when something goes wrong with your fucking computer and you're like, what the fuck do I do? And you go to Google and you write, what the fuck do I do? And then you go to some forum post that someone else is bitching that they had the same fucking problem that you did. And then underneath you get 50 posts, all usually saying different things, some bullshit, some crap. And then eventually you find a bunch of them that all say the same thing. And then you try that and it fixes your fucking problem. It's kind of like that when it comes to troubleshooting these problems on a ketogenic diet and with intermittent fasting. Rosalbo, Buttholes Unite, thank you for your super chat contribution. I definitely fucking appreciate it and shit. So, Deborah, honesty is the best policy. I assume that was in reference when I made my little spiel there. And yeah, I do believe that me being honest with you is better, and not omitting things that I think make me look bad or might, you know. And I can see emotionally how it's easy for some YouTubers to do that, because it's hard when you come out and you say you're doing something and motherfuckers don't like that shit. Oh, they're all over your ass, trust me. And it makes you feel like this big. And I did. Okay, when I fucking put that video out that said I suck, I knew it was coming too. I knew that this decision was going to have an impact on how people see me, on how people interact with me. And, you know, but I took it and did what I could do. But I'm not gonna, you know, sit here and not tell you shit that I think is pertinent to the subject. Especially when I'm using my own results as an example in often cases and talking about my journey. And you need to know all of the variables when it comes to that. Sherry Ambrose, keep up the good work, Scott. Thank you, Sherry, for your contribution. You guys are being super fucking generous today. And you know, I was not expecting that as coming in to do a live stream today. You guys are really being awesome with the contributions today. Let me make sure I didn't miss anybody. So yeah, I got everybody. So thank you again to Alex, Wishful Thinking, David MSP, Paul Smart, Rosalba, I can't do your last name, Trujillo, low, sorry, I suck. And then, of course, Sherry Ambrose. And many of those contributors are also pretty regular contributors. So I do appreciate what you guys do for me. And that, you know, you're helping keep this going and shit. Let's see. So back to the IA scale question. I realize I didn't completely answer that. Which is worse for female hormonal imbalance, fasting or keto? I would say fasting is probably can be more detrimental, particularly when your body fat levels are starting to get lower. Women do tend to need to hold on to more body fat. They don't like it, but there's a certain level of health you give up to once you start getting below a certain body fat percentage, and that, I believe, is where you'll start running into the most hormonal issues in terms of, you know, how regular your cycle is and stuff like that. But like I said, I'm a guy. I'm just talking from the anecdotal stuff I've come across and the things I've read. And I highly recommend you just go out there and talk to other women who do this, other women who fast. Ask the question in those beginner forums. You'll get a shit ton of people answering. Some will know what they're talking about. Some will just quote some news article to you. But in the end, you should have enough ideas of things that you can try to improve if you're having an issue with that. And that's how I approach any problem. Like back in the day when I didn't know about the electrolyte problem, I was getting the fucking cramps in my legs. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I went out and checked and saw that it was electrolytes, it was water, you know, it was hydration, and that was the issue. And literally just the other day I was on one of those forums and I saw somebody ask that exact question. I get these horrible fucking cramps in the morning in my legs and in my feet, and they suck too. They wake you right up out of sleep. I've had my foot just kind of curl into this like archy ball shit, and it is painful. It doesn't snap out of it really quick. I find that I get up and limp around a bit and it goes away, and it's, you know, but like I said, on the days when I hydrate enough and get enough electrolytes, it doesn't happen the next day. So it's one of those things that when you come into these little problems, you got to go out and find out the solutions. And some of the solutions work and some of them don't. And you try them. And if they work, then you've solved that problem. You know what to do if it happens again. And, you know, that's one of the processes I use to determine what I'm going to do in my diet. Ken Zimmerman, love your channel, bro. Thank you. And we're still slowly growing. Might hit 10,000 by the end of the year. That's the goal. I think I can hit 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year and keep this going. That's assuming I don't, like, you know, bail or something weird happens, which I don't plan on happening. But, you know, it gets rough sometimes. I will say that. You know, this past week, you know, both financially, obviously before this super chat, I was questioning whether or not that I could do this full time going forward, or as much time as I do put into it. And once again, you guys are just saying, hey, yeah, we're here for you, buddy. So, and that's going to keep me going. But I do realize, you know, I'm not delusional that this is going to last forever, that my channel has a long 20-year lifespan. You know, I don't know. I can't predict the future. I don't know when people might just lose interest or not watch anymore, or YouTube will just completely demonetize me and, you know, just make it so that I can, if I'm putting videos out, it's more just to do it than to actually help anybody, because no one would be watching, that kind of stuff. So I don't know. But ultimately I'm going to keep putting videos out. It's just a question of time and, you know, response. Let's see. Let's see. For some reason it centered a comment from I Am Small Fry. Let's show that. I am Small Fry. My thumbnail is me, 6'5". I was 300-ish pounds next to my friend's smart car It's a take on Chris Farley's Fat Guy in a Little Coat. Okay, I got it now. That was from that conversation. So I'd have to... I assume you have a YouTube channel or something. I'll have to try and check that out. You should leave a comment. I can follow through to your YouTube channels if you comment and just say, check out my channel in the comments. Not in the chat because I can't really click through there, but I do check out people's channels when they bring attention to them. Now, that being said, the fuck? Hold on a sec. My SD card just filled up, so now I gotta keep a fucking eye on it and make sure it's still running. I'll just swap cards real quick. Shit. Oh, shit. Technical difficulties and shit. That'll learn me. All right. Yeah, I have to have the camera recording or it shuts off automatically. So there's that. Let's see. Oh, this is a good comment here. I don't know why is it held for review. All right. If you eat more fat than your body If you eat more fat than your body, you don't need to hold so much fat. And if you're fat adapted and, you know, on a ketogenic diet and you overeat fat, you will ramp up your metabolism. It's not like quick. You might gain a pound or two before you do it, but you'll plateau going up. And I've seen it. I've done it. And but you have to be fat adapted. If you're a carb burner, it doesn't seem to work that way. If you're a carb burner and you eat more carbs, you're going to make more fat, a lot more fat. At least for me, that's how it works. So there's that. Totally moved the camera a little too. All right, there we go. Professional quality production and shit. Cat in Canada, you are human, and just because you share on YouTube doesn't mean you are holy and not allowed to stray away from your own plan. People that are lashing out are obviously just out to cause drama. I guess I disagree with that a little bit. Some of the people that lash out, they just, I guess they, you know, there's people that are optimal health oriented and will rule you out if you are not preaching that, or if you step outside, you know, this bubble of optimal health in any way. And then there's people who have lost people, and I got a lot of comments to that degree, that people they watched pass away from their addictions. And, you know, so I feel deeply. And that was the hardest emotional part, because there were people telling me about loved ones that they watched struggle with alcohol or with heroin or with various other addictive substances, and that they watched them just disintegrate and die, essentially, from these addictions. And it made me feel like a pile of shit when they were telling me this, you know. And now I realize that me having 1 or 2 drinks in the bar is, first of all, nowhere near that level, and I would never let myself get there, and I didn't before. I went cold turkey. I've done it a couple times because of the binge drinking, but now that I've been out of it for 5 months, and I felt I should be able to have the willpower to be moderate again. And I watched a really good video. I didn't really plan on talking about this particular topic. Let me see if I can pull it up here. But I actually watched a TED Talk today about addiction that I thought was very profound. And I'm just going to share it and tell you where to go or what to search to get to it, if I can bring my fucking history up. And let's see here. Where is it? It's a whole bunch of van life shit. And no, did it not show up in my fucking thing? Okay, no, that's everything. Okay, here we go. This is, of course, there's a PetSmart ad. Let's make sure that's not, sound's not coming through. But let me put that up. Hey, some ad about cats and shit. That's some premium ad. All right, but it was this guy here.
Hunters I was looking for, so I thought, okay, I'll go and sit with different people around the world who've lived this and studied this and talk to them and see if I can learn from them. And I didn't realize I would end up going over 30,000 miles at the start, but I ended up going and meeting loads of different people, from a transgender crack dealer in Brownsville, Brooklyn, to a scientist who spends a lot of time feeding hallucinogens to.
So that's the guy. I don't want to spend the whole time going over the video, but it's everything you think you know about addiction is wrong. It's got 4 million views. It's from a TED Talk a few years ago, and I listened to that. And basically, what he's saying is that addiction is really, you know, we all think that everything's chemically addictive, and if you have a little bit of the chemical, then you're biologically addicted to it. And what he found through his journey to talk to addicts, scientists, basically anything he could find out on the subject, and what he discovered is it's more about a lack of connection. The less, you know, close personal interactions you have with people, and the less, you know, more isolated your environment is, that you tend to, you know, become a slave to several addictions to try and replace that. It's like a coping mechanism of sorts. So definitely, I didn't put it in the description, but if you check it out, it's on the TED channel, the TED Talks channel. Everything You Need to Know About Addiction is Wrong by Johann Hari. I assume that's how you pronounce his fucking name. But yeah, that's what you gotta check that out. So check out his channel. Well, it's not a channel. It's just check out that TED Talk and then maybe dig deeper. And I actually plan on digging a little deeper and watching some more of his stuff. I'm sure he has a presence out there in the internet. So you know, that's the truth. If we have bad connections and we don't connect in person with people or have people we see in person, and that's part of the reason I wanted to drink socially, so that I could connect with everyone around me who does that, without jeopardizing my own health. And maybe it's having those connections that will keep me doing it moderately. And I've already had pressure to step over that 3-drink limit. You know, the last time I went out, there were people like, oh, you've already had your 3 drinks, have you? Well, you sure? We can do a shot. You know, how about a shot? You know, so I've had pressure, peer pressure, to go over my limit, and I stuck to my guns. I drank coffee and water the rest of the night. And so I'm really believing that I'm going to be able to do this, to adhere to a 3-drink maximum. But I do realize there are people that have been through a lot of rough in their life, and you know, I don't judge them for that, just because they might be a little harsh to me on it, and maybe have this delusion that I'm somehow perfect in some way, and that when I show that I'm not, that they lose all faith or ability to believe anything I say or any of that. There's really nothing I can do about that. I can't really change them, and I'm not looking to. It's not my job. I'm living my life. I'm sharing my journey and hopefully helping some people with the things that I learned the hard way. And believe me, I'm pretty good at learning things the hard way. So let's see here. I am Small Fry was responding to Paul Smart. What was that he just said about increasing metabolism? And then I am Small Fry responded to Paul Smart with, I think he said, if you're a fat burner, you eat more fat than you need, you may gain a pound or 2, but your body will ramp up metabolism, I think, and shit. And yeah, that's exactly what I said. And you can test it. If you're fat adapted, you've been on the ketogenic diet with no cheat days for at least 6 weeks, try and have a day where you eat as much fucking fat as you want. And that's where most of your calories will come in, because fat is very calorie dense. I think you'll find it difficult to overeat. You might make it to 3,000 calories. I think the most I've done is maybe 2,800 calories. like eating a big 20-ounce prime rib or something shit like that. It's very fatty cut. And, you know, you're going to be full as fuck, first of all. But you might go over 400 or 500 calories if you're sedentary, and you'll find that you'll gain a few pounds and it won't go up anymore. It'll stay there. Eventually it'll drop back down too, you know. You also got to take into account food weight and water weight and all that shit. So let's see here. I gotta check the time. I am running over. I did have somewhere to be at 5. Hopefully he's not too pissed. So I'm gonna have to we'll do one more chat, and then I'm going to have to end this particular live stream because I'm already late for where I said I was going to be. Deborah wrote, I believe you are born with an addictive personality. My father died at 52 of alcoholism, and most of his male siblings. Addiction comes in many forms, including exercise, all but much better for you. That's, you know, that's true. Addiction does come in many forms, but I do believe the biggest thing that leads to addiction is a lack of coping and connection. The more I think about it, the more I think of the things that I've used as crutches over the years when things are shitty. A lot of people I know that are alcoholics or are addicted usually have a lot of problems in their life that they're dealing with, a lot of stress, and they need a release. You know, I believe environmental factors are more, you know, of a cause of addiction than personality problems. I believe our environment is not one that's conducive to contentment, to, you know, low stress or low levels of depression. I believe our environment is inflammatory to all of those. And when you live this life constantly exposed to stress, miserable fucking shit, bad news on the news all day, you know, girlfriend dumped you, boyfriend dumped you, marriage failed, you know, job sucks, fired, you know, all of this bad shit in our life. Not to mention that instead of hanging out with motherfuckers, we're staring at our fucking phones all the time, which does not connect you, does not provide any fulfillment other than a slight dopamine hit. That, I believe, is the biggest factor in addiction. And if we can improve those aspects of our lives, then maybe we can get rid of a lot of that addiction. Not all of it. We're dopamine creatures. You know, that's why we get up every day. But we might not be as bad. You know, we might be able to be moderate. You know, that's my goal. I want to be moderate. I want to do pleasurable things, dopamine-driven activities, but I don't want to rely on those for pleasure when there's no happiness to be had. And that's what really it is. When things are going to shit, you're going to do more addictive behaviors, whether it's drinking or whether it's staring at the phone, whether it's researching health on YouTube, or whether it's hiking, or whether it's backpacking. There's all kinds of activities we do. Some are healthier than others. Some don't have the option to do healthy ones. You know, there's always that demographic. And I know, you know, I'm not trying to justify addiction, but I am going to say that it is a product of our environment, of our social environment, of our values in some cases. And I think if we address that, we can improve addiction, because you can't just tell an addict to stop. But you can try and improve the areas of their life that they're trying to compensate for, so that maybe they don't need as much of that addictive substance to get by. And that's what that video I was going over. There was another video about how someone overcame depression, and it was a TED Talk. It all popped up in my news feed. Can't imagine why. And so that's kind of where I'm at with that. And I want to close out on that note. But thank you to all of you who super chatted. I appreciate it. This week I will try and put out a few more videos than I did last week, and I will do the best I can. But thank you to all of you who showed up. I'm sorry if I missed your question or your comment. And I do, you know, I always do the best I can, but at the same time, I want to fully address anything I do talk about. So that's kind of where I'm at with everything. And I hope to continue to help you guys and share the information and do the research and do the self-experiments. There's more to come. There's long fasts I plan on doing. There's a whole lot of exploring of minimalism and living out of a vehicle and traveling and budget type stuff that I'm trying to do some more lifestyle oriented videos here and there, in addition to keeping up with the nutrition world and all the bullshit that we're constantly bombarded with there. So I'll try and keep this shit going and shit. And you guys are definitely keeping me going doing this too, because even when the going gets tough, there's still a group of you that is just still here for me, and I appreciate it. So remember, I'm not a fucking expert. I'm just a fucking asshole. Please like and subscribe and shit. Check out ScottTheTruckDriver.com. Links are in the description. If you want to support the channel that way, you can do that, or you can go to Patreon. Also, I do post all of these in my blogs, and there's been some, more YouTube controversy that they're fucking with the sub feed or some shit like that. So if you're having trouble keeping up with when I put new shit out, just check ScottTheTruckDriver.com every once in a while. Look in the blog. All the videos get shared out there, including links, direct links to videos that, of like the ones I recommended today. You're able to just watch right there on the channel. So check that out. Also, you can like Scott the Truck Driver on Facebook. I do get a lot of communication and messages through the fan page there. So that's everything that's available. So please have a nice motherfucking day and shit.